So you are a trustee. Now what? We have many people emailing us asking, not only what are the benefits of trust, but they're also asking, what do I do next now that I know trust administration? This is what we're going to get into on this episode of The Foundation. I appreciate you checking this out. My name is Sot L, Seeker of Truth L, Speaker of Truth L. And it's good to be back. I've been gone for a while. I haven't done the show in a long time, several months. A lot has happened. Some good, mostly good, some bad. But, that's life. That's how it comes at you. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. You are a trustee. Now what? Once again, I'd like to welcome you to the Foundation. My name is Sot L, Seeker of Truth L, Speaker of Truth L. And this is the Foundation where we understand incorrect information, incorrectly applied, can get you hurt. Correct information, incorrectly applied, can get you hurt. So we're always looking to apply correct information correctly here at the Foundation. I also want to start off by saying I am not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a finance dude. I'm not a stock specialist. I don't even know much about crypto. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I will tell you this. I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice. We don't give legal advice here at the Foundation. We are a private charity. But, we didn't apply for tax exemption. Enough about us, more about you. Having said that, we're going to get into this episode. I want to say, peace to you. If you're new here, if you've been here before, I want to say peace to you as well. This is the Foundation. I'm kind of excited to be back, y'all. So let's jump into this. Let's jump in. Let's do a dance. As I say, make sure you check out welcome to thefoundation.com. Check out the email list and see what we can do with getting, some type of update to the website. Not too much, but we did speak with the gentleman, and the gentleman said that he was unavailable for a while. The gentleman had a small child recently, which we congratulate the gentleman. But that being said, he may be unavailable. But check out the website, welcome to thefoundation.com. You can find a lot of information here on the website. Excuse me. We suggest that you check out the email list. Just sign up right here in this little area. Just put your email in there and blah, blah. Tell us about what we do. You can make a donation if you like what we've been doing over the years. Private consultation. We assist with this dance. You can book a consultation. Here you go. But I think, checking this stuff out. If you're new, you want to go down here to education. And we have here right in the middle, the Foundation Trust Primer. These are documents, PDFs, handpicked by me. Got a lot all the time. So where do I start? I know you started somewhere and, it appears as though you know what you're talking about. But where do I start? So these are, the documents I chose out of everything that I read. Because when I say that I read everything, I did. I'm not playing. I read everything because I had to, I needed discernment. And you need to get to the truth. You got to sift through everything. That's what Sots do. So I would say that you start off with that. If you're game, we got the Foundation Trust series. We have 3 parts. I would say part 1 is beginner. Part 2 is intermediate. Part 3 is, more advanced techniques, what we're doing with these, these structures. So, we also have some documents free. Not all of them have to do with trust. Honestly, most of them don't. But they were documents that we saw that people were charging for on different spots in the internet. So, do your dance. But it's, it's good to know, different laws, different jurisprudence, different venues, how they work, and do that dance. That's what we're trying to do here at the Foundation. In a way, we just teaching contract law, and contract is the basis of all that. All that you see is contract. And then, there's power in contract. Excuse me. Speaking of power, we got the Foundation Trustee Training. And people would be like, well, what does it mean to go private? Hands down, the best thing I can explain to you is, I would say that the individual is the worst structure to utilize to exchange your labor in the public marketplace. your life energy, time, and expertise, labor. Using the individual is the worst, in my opinion. I'm not giving legal advice. This is my opinion. Who am I? I might be crazy out here just tripping. You never know. I could be doing the show right now with no pants. None. You never know. Just look. And I say stuff like that because, every show, I just want to, there's a possibility I might be out of here. So, if the authorities listen to my statement, hey, I'm not I'm not an attorney. I don't get legal advice. I speak on facts and my experience. I speak on the truth. But, the individual, the worst is the worst. Bottom line, my opinion, it's the worst. It's the highest tax. It's ridiculous. It's the least deductions, blah, blah, blah. So, it's also the worst thing, in my opinion, to title property in my opinion. People say the individual is me. I don't argue with people. If you think your paperwork, then, if that's what you identify as paperwork, that's on you. But the thing of it is I know what it is. There are other structures that can be utilized to exchange your energy in, the commercial marketplace, this foreign jurisdiction, really. And with that being said, trustee training, silver tier, the most affordable trustee training you will come across, and cogent. You learn at your own pace, no tests, no quizzes, and that's why people go through the training. They'll be like, well, okay, so what do I do now? And, part of the training is, titling assets, right? And just because you know how to administer a trust, right, and you know how to properly substantiate its dealings, you're not necessarily familiar with how to maybe title property, how to enforce, the trust instrument. There's things that, there's law involved if, there's court cases. There's law involved and liability involved if there's, property title to the trust, things of that nature. And, sometimes you got to learn or find someone who is very, astute with that particular body of jurisprudence. Basically, I learned how to contract with, third parties on behalf of the trust. This is the stuff that you learn in trustee training. So, link in the description of this video and all videos, I think. Pretty sure it should be. If you're interested, this is the silver tier. This is the most affordable. We have a gold tier. We have a platinum tier. I'm going to just tell you straight up, the platinum tier, you get my private mobile number. You can call me. I answer the phone. You got a question, let's talk about it. You're feeling nervous. If you're having emotions with regards to this, because that happens, I feel like, with everyone who does this, because it takes time to change or adapt your paradigm. It's a paradigm shift. You don't know what you don't know. And then especially when there's not very many people that that you trust, that have done these things or showed you how to do them, it's kind of, it can be scary. So it can be an emotional thing too. But, more often than not, there's been times where, I've told the trustee they're in the bank trying to open a trust account and the banker's being weird, and I, hand the banker the phone. And I've done that. I've got on the phone with the banker. And it's not hostile or anything. This is just business. But, I'm just going to be honest. That's the one. It's not advertised necessarily. But, you got to contact us if you're interested. But, the silver tier, boom, here it is. And then I tell most people, probably get the silver tier. And if you want to upgrade, you can upgrade and we'll give you, your credit of what you made, your sign up. You'll credit that. But that's my suggestion. But, people do what they do. Also, this is just for the listeners, people who listen to me ramble on over and over and over again. If you email us, email me, admin@welcometothefoundation.com. I'll take care of you. But, we do, 55% off everything if you pay in real money. I'm just going to leave it at that. We also have the How to Start a Business. This is a course. It's available. You get your own account on the private side of the foundation. website, get your own login, you get your own account and stuff. This shows up as one of your courses, and it's available. Same thing with trustee training. It shows up at a course, but this one, where it's trustee training, there's a monthly. There's no monthly for this. This, once you grab it, it's yours forever. And I went to school. I double majored in college for international business and sales and marketing. So I put this together with the help of some of the other guys here at the foundation, and I think this is learn at your own, do it at your own pace. It can be overwhelming, especially when you get to the business plan. And I tell people, do a business plan, and they'll be like, well, it's only for funding. I don't want funding. No, it's not. No, it's not. Business plans are, yes, they are used to acquire funding in, certain scenarios, specific scenarios. But, it's very, very well known. It's well practiced. It happens every day. But if you think a business plan is only for funding, then you miss the whole idea of what a business plan is, because a business plan is really just the playbook. And the accounting for where the business is going and where it's been and where it's at. Like, there's a mission statement in there. I mean, there's a lot, but then people get to the projections, the financial projections, they freak out. We address that here in this course. We address a lot of those things in this course. So if you're interested, link in the description. So you are a trustee. Now what? Let me get into this. I ramble. I'm not trying to take up too much of your time. Your time is worth way more than money. But you're a trustee, now what? I would say, let's just jump right into it. What I would say is, if you're a trustee, what you're going to do is you immediately start looking at what you own. What you own that is unencumbered. It has to be unencumbered. Start looking at what you own. Maybe you have some money. Fund the trust with the money. Maybe you have a car. Fund the trust with the car. These are things that you do. People don't know how to do this. Let's go into it. So buying a car, like I found this, and if y'all know me, I like to use public sources, so you can't say, oh, you just making stuff up. I like to use official sources, primary sources, government publications, Supreme Court case citations, things of that nature. But with this, I feel like, public sources. So this is legalclarity.org. So it's it's presenting itself as a nonprofit. But it's saying, buying a car through a trust. You can do that? A lot of people didn't know you could do that. People, oh, well, I can title the car in the trust. Yes. Yep. But you can approach the entire transaction with the trust. And this is like some of the paradigm shifting that needs to happen for trustees. And listen, I'm not saying everybody needs to be a trustee. I'm not, because it's not for everyone. What I'm saying is every family should have a trust estate, is what I'm saying. A private trust estate. I will say that forever, as long as I got vocal cords. I will say that. I'm not, not everyone should be a trustee. Not everyone, has, you got to be accountable. First of all, you got to be responsible. Being accountable, a lot of people aren't accountable these days. You try to hold them accountable, just like you attacking them, like you disrespect them or something. So you got to be accountable. You got to be responsible. You got to be respectable. You got to be, have a business mind state. Not easily irritated when you hear no, or when you run up against resistance to what you're attempting to accomplish. Not everyone should be a trustee, but every family should have a private trust estate, hands down. But, a lot of people don't know. You can approach the entire contract, the entire transaction, from the standpoint of, this is on behalf of the trust. It happens every single day. That's part of the paradigm shift, do business on behalf of the trust. We're trustees. We're contracting on behalf of the trust. Purchasing a car through a trust is often pursued for estate planning, asset protection, or tax advantages. They're telling you. I didn't say it. I don't give legal advice. I don't give tax advice. I don't know nothing about the IRS besides blah blahs, While it can help shield assets from probate and ensure smooth succession, the process involves specific legal and administrative considerations that differ from personal vehicle ownership. Understanding these nuances is crucial to ensure compliance and avoid potential challenges. And the challenges would be challenges to the trust itself, the validity of the trust as a separate and distinct entity from the trustees and or the grantor. That's part of it. But that's not legal advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. That, what was that? I don't know. I'm sorry. Trustees' authority over vehicle purchases. The trustee's authority to buy a vehicle for a trust is governed by the trust document. The trust, the indenture, the contract. The document specifies whether the trustee can manage, acquire, or dispose of trust assets, including vehicles. Fiduciary duty is central to a trustee's responsibilities, requiring them to act in the best interests of the beneficiaries. This includes making prudent financial decisions, such as evaluating the necessity, cost, and impact of a vehicle purchase on the trust's overall financial health. Because the trust it's an invalid. Think of a man without a brain. But, he has a bunch of money, but he can't make proper decisions to spend it on his own. And someone steps in as a fiduciary on this person's behalf. Failure to meet these obligations can lead to legal consequences, including removal as trustee or personal liability for financial losses. And, that stuff gets deep. Because there's a level, when you're acting as a fiduciary, you're expected, let me use that word, expected. You're expected to know what you are and are not to be doing. You're expected to know. And if you breach the trust, or breach any terms of the trust, or, you put the trust in, harm's way, there's consequences for that. Establishing legal title, titling a vehicle in the name of the trust is a critical step. Establishing legal ownership, this is what a lot of people miss. And I feel like, there's nerves involved and there's fear involved, and which is natural. That's normal. Anyone who makes anyone the subject of ridicule due to the fact that they're dealing with fear of something that they've never done before, but they're trying to do is, should be, removed, sequestered from the rest of us, and let us do our dance, because no one's perfect. But, I feel like there's a lot of fear, the fear of walking into a government, quote unquote, a facility with, paperwork that you printed off from your printer. I understand it. I went through the same thing years and years ago. It seems like now. Wow, it doesn't seem like it was now. But it seems like longer. It seems like 20 years ago, but it was really like 15. Tax implications of trust-owned vehicles. I'm sorry, let me finish this. The process for titling varies by state as local regulations govern vehicle titling. Wherever you get your tabs or your tags, some regions of, America, they call it tags. Some regions of America, they call them tabs. You know what I mean? Some regions, they call it other stuff. But y'all know what I'm talking about. You got paid every year. And in most states, they give you a sticker for that year. Right? You know what I'm talking about? So, I feel like it's a fear thing. I feel like it's a fear thing. But, once you get over the fear, it's a gloriousness. So we got, you need the trust full legal name and, full disclosure. A trust does not need an employer identification number to title vehicles or property or any asset, really. Now, when you get into if the asset is a checking account, that's different. Tax implications. Wait, did I miss something? Process. Okay, filing fees apply. Yep. Generally, they put the trust name on the title and the trustee's name on the title. Most people, that freaks them out. A tax identification number. Most jurisdictions don't ask for the tax ID to title it. Once the title is transferred, trustees should maintain detailed records of ownership. These records. So the trust is responsible for maintenance, for the tabs or tags, whatever you call them. For, the paying of the insurance. And you got to be careful because a lot of times you'll run across information, especially in the public, and they'll be talking about trust, and you'd be like, okay, this blah blah. But no, it's not. They're talking about a statutory trust or some sort of inter vivos trust or a living trust or something of that nature, a grantor trust according to the IRS. And I've seen stuff where they were like, yeah, just you title the vehicle in the trust, but then you put the trust on your personal insurance. Oh no, that's not. Nope, nah. Why would you do that? No, I wouldn't do that. Owning a vehicle through trust has tax implications, which depend on the trust type, jurisdiction, and transaction specifics. I was going to say specificities. I don't even know if that's a word. Trustees need to evaluate these carefully to ensure compliance and avoid unintended financial consequences. Sales tax is a primary concern. And like what they'll do is they'll pull up the Blue Book value, Kelly Blue Book or whatever, to, see the, ascertain the value, the present value. And then they'll tax it to that unless you tell them that you bought it for less. Right? And then you usually got to have a reason, like, well, it was my uncle or something like that, because most people aren't going to give some strangers a discount. I wouldn't. For what? I'll give you $1. I ain't finna give you no discount. For irrevocable trust, vehicles are generally excluded from the grantor's taxable estate, y'all. Here it is. An irrevocable trust, they're non-grantor trusts. So they're either going to be a simple trust or they're going to be a complex trust, because the IRS only recognizes 3 types of trust. Check it out. I could be crazy. Research everything I'm saying. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school, not a day. Read a lot of law books, been to the law library many times, many times. But as for me being an attorney, do I attorney? I do not. Potentially reducing, you got to throw that word in there, potentially, generally. You got to use these words that reduce liability. You can't just say, you can't take that word out, because then, you're kind of like guaranteeing something. Potentially reducing estate taxes. However, trustees must manage the trust properly to maintain its tax-advantaged status, as mismanagement could lead to the vehicle's value being included in the grantor's estate. That's what you want to avoid. Mainly the 2 things that lead to mismanagement, y'all. 2 things. If you're taking notes, you're on it. If you're not taking notes, remember this. If you want to take notes, I'll give you 2 seconds. Okay, I'll give you more than 2 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Mismanagement generally comes by 2 ways, right? Number 1, commingling of assets. It's broad. Research it. I don't know. Number 2, self-dealing. I mean, just think about it. It's almost self-explanatory. Self-dealing. When you're dealing with a trust, you're contracting on behalf of the trust. You're doing business on behalf of the trust. You're doing business on behalf of the trust, not on behalf of yourself. Right? Best banks for trust accounts. Now what? Bank accounts, buddy. They're everywhere. Look at this. I just, this is Forbes. Public. I mean, do you trust Forbes? I don't necessarily trust them, but I trust that they've been around for a long time. Best banks. I don't think they're lying about banks, right? Christy Bieber, JD, Michael Benninger. You think they're lying? I don't think they're lying. Trusts are legal entities. That's not a lie. Used to manage assets on behalf of beneficiaries. That is not a lie. A grantor creates and transfers assets to a trust which legally holds them until they're ready to be distributed. Look, that's not a grantor creates and transfers assets to a trust. It doesn't always happen like that. The grantor definitely always creates the trust, but the grantor isn't necessarily always responsible for the funding of the trust. But, I just off the top, when you're reading a public source, they're probably 99% of the time talking about public statutory structures. And there are public statutory trusts in every state. Not even gonna lie to you. And you go to an attorney, that's what they train to do, because that's what, they look at, they state attorneys, right? State, not private. And they'll say, we're private attorneys, but you got a state bar card. Let me stop. Let me stay on point. Ally Bank, Betterment, never heard of that. Alliant, Fidelity, Synchrony. Those are, hey, Synchrony, trust savings, certificates of deposit, Fidelity. Did you know that? Brokerage accounts. That's a big thing. So not only like checking accounts, but brokerage accounts. You could buy and sell stocks and bonds and equities and dances with a trust account. Benefits. The trust never dies. No probate. No death taxes. No inheritance taxes. It's the same checking account with the same checking account number for a very long time because the checking account is in the name of the trust. The trust never dies. The trustees, so your successor trustees, your heirs, your progeny, your offspring. Some say children, some say kids. I think it's funny. Kids, that's a funny word. They step up and they show their successor trustee documentation, and they merely come on to the account as a trustee, as a signer and, administrator of the trust. It's the same account. That right there, when that clicked for me, it was I don't know how to explain it, Can't be told in words. Asset protection, lawsuits, liens, judgments. You can reduce liability. There's even, I've seen it. I've seen it many times. I've seen it enough times to know that it's not a scam. I knew it wasn't a scam in the first place. But sometimes you just figure some stuff out and you just feel like you're going to jail, even though it's above board. I just feel like when it really, I remember where I was. I remember where I was sitting. I remember what city I was in. I remember whose house I was in. When it clicked in my mind what I knew, I'll never forget that day. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. I might have had a little panic attack. I don't know what panic. I ain't never had a panic attack. I don't know. I might just be exaggerating, but I was kind of freaking out, noticeably. Like, yo, wow, this stuff can probably get me in trouble if I do this the wrong way. That was over 10 years ago, closer to 15. When it clicks, you can sue me. You can sue me all day. All day. I don't own anything. You ain't gonna get nothing. The attorneys do their due diligence. They don't even file the lawsuit, man. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is personal experience. This is not legal advice. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell them that people's come talk to me. I'm gonna tell them that you lying. You lying on me. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna lie and say you lying on me. And you can play them this, and then I'm gonna say I'm crazy. I don't remember that. You can sue me all day. I don't own anything. I do not own anything. And that scares the mess out of people. It does. I know it does. I've seen it. It scares. And then you have people, hey, so you're just going to sign it over because you don't own it anymore, which means you can lose control. And they stir up that fear. It's a private contract. It can't even be, listen, this thing can't even be governed by the state governments, man. It's a federally protected entity. It doesn't even come under state statutory law. Look, the trust that I administer, they don't even, what is a state trust return? Why? This is private. It's not party to the state statutes. It's not governed by, people do not understand this. People do not understand this. It just goes over their head. And then I'll talk to people and they're like, well, so I know, I get it. And I say this is really easy. This stuff is simple. And you're saying it's simple because you're so. I get it. Right? I get it. But I feel like if we didn't have such a self-effacing, like not believing in ourselves, but we believe outside of ourselves type of, society or culture or whatever, people would hear what I'm saying. Like, listen, this is simple. Oh, it's simple for you. Stop it. You're putting limits on yourself. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's simple for me because I'm super smart and all. Listen, this stuff is simple. You just got to wrap your mind around it. It's a paradigm shift. We can't fathom, like, listen, I'm going to go into the bank with this paperwork that I printed off the printer in my house, yo. And all I did was take it to a notary at the same bank when I walked in, as a matter of fact. I went on the website on my computer and I got an EIN for a trust. And I printed it off on my printer, man. And I'm walking in with this paperwork, man, into a bank. That's some scary stuff. No, it don't say the state of nothing on there. It says the IRS, but that's the EIN. The actual trust documentation, you printed it off. You did that. People aren't used to that, man. People aren't used to that. They're not. But I'm telling you right now, it is brilliant to sit here and be able to say, I don't own anything, yo. I just control stuff. And it's more natural. How can I own something? I can't bring it with me. They went through the pyramids and all that gold and stuff was still there. It didn't go through the portal with them. I feel like I'm just more in line with natural law. But yeah, man, there's people out here, and I'm going to say it. Look, Medicare, they qualifying for Medicare and Medicaid because they putting their property in trust, man. So when they go and they sign the papers and they say, what do you own? What's your wealth? They put 0 or something like that, and they ain't lying. They're not lying because a trust is a legal, distinct, and separate person. According to statutory law, federal law, international law. Read the Hague Convention on the recognition and, I can't never remember the whole title of that long convention. But it's the Hague Convention on the recognition of trust. Just type that in and it'll come up. It's international. It blows my mind. How to transfer real estate property into a living trust. Now, please believe this is a grantor trust. This is not what we're talking about. There's private trust. There's public trusts. That's the secret. With the wealthy, how the rich get richer, that's the foundation of the secret. Their structures are not governed by the state. Doesn't matter if the state starts getting broke and in that one session of the House, they try to pass this legislation that's going to tax more. That doesn't touch private structures. None of that stuff. A trust is a separate entity. See? Don't believe me. A trust is a separate entity that can hold assets on your behalf. And look, this is a distinction. An inter vivos trust created while you're alive can be a useful way to control it and to have control, my bad, and flexibility over your assets. Many people choose to put a house into a trust as part of their estate plan so their future beneficiaries can easily receive property without the messiness of probate. What did I just say? It avoids probate. Probate, which can be required if you give away assets through a will. The process of transferring real estate into a trust is fairly straightforward and consists of creating a new deed that changes ownership of the property to the trustee and the name of the trust. You can also fund the trust with other assets like cars and boats in the same manner. Key takeaways. You have to pay a notary and filing fees. As a grantor, well, remember, they're speaking about a living trust, the grantor trust. This is not the trust we administer, not the trust we learn to administer in trustee training. You still own real estate in a revocable living trust. See, that's not what we're talking about. Nope. And that's the thing. This is the only way that you can title a property that still has a mortgage on it in a trust. It has to be a grantor revocable living trust. Otherwise, they're going to accelerate the mortgage because these types of trusts, they only protect from probate. They do not protect from lawsuits, litigation. They don't protect assets from litigation. They protect from probate, though. That's what they're talking about. That's why they're saying probate. They don't touch on that other stuff, Transferring real estate into a trust can make it easier for your beneficiaries to receive property outside of probate. But see, here's the thing. On the private side, the trusts own the property. and the beneficiaries have beneficial use of the property per their beneficiary contract, or specifically their beneficiary certificate that either they receive at a certain age or a copy of, or is held on their behalf. And the trustees, they got to execute the contract. So whether beneficiary knows or not, they're going to get what they're going to get. But that's more private, and they're gonna walk you through on how to do it. Check this out: how to title assets in your trust. See, helps you avoid probate. How to title assets in your trust: real estate, personal property, vehicles. Did y'all know that life insurance, beneficiary designation, and ownership? Right. And in these cases, the owner is going to be the trust. And the beneficiary is going to be the trust as well. And that's a jewel I just gave y'all for free. Matter of fact, I'm going to edit that out. I'm just playing. I ain't going to edit that out. I'm not going to do that to y'all. Bank accounts. You can change the ownership of bank accounts, or you can do a pay on death designation. I wouldn't do that. I would just, and I wouldn't even change the ownership. I would just open a new account in the trust name, a trust account, and then write a check from the old account to the new account. Now, you got to understand, if this is an individual account, there may be some tax implications. There's a gift exclusion, but I'm not an accountant or anything. I don't know what you're talking about. So, you got to do your dance, but there's a gift exclusion, y'all, but it doesn't benefit the gifter, from my understanding, just the giftee. Ownership of business. Y'all know that? It's a big deal. Instead of you owning the business and having to claim it on your Schedule C. I don't know about taxes, though. I can't give tax advice. The trust owns the business and claims it on its 1041, the federal that one. And, it receives a K-1, blah, 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 blah. Ooh. No, I'm just playing. K-1s for distributions. And, for me, it's kind of, it's still amazing to this day, y'all, that this information has just it was sitting under my nose for so long before I actually paid attention and started utilizing it, and it changed my life. And I don't really do, what is it called? Testimonials. I don't do that because we private over here. And I don't ask people to do testimonials because we're private over here. But if I did do testimonials, it'd be a lot of them. Once again, this is not legal advice, but I just wanted to go over some of the things you would do now that you're a trustee. Like, I'm a trustee, now what? Hey, get to work. Because, every time you title an unencumbered asset into a private trust, you reduce liability. And how is that? Listen, I own nothing. I just control things. And I can be sued all day. It's gonna be very expensive for the plaintiff as a defendant. I can show a pro se and pro persona, whatever. Dude, special appearance doesn't matter. I don't have to hire an attorney. I have nothing to lose because you have the wrong party on the pleading or the complaint, and you had no contract, no dealings with the person, the trust that owns the assets that you think I own. Run the plate, though. It's not going to come back to me. It's going to come back to a trust. And that is the power. It's different. I promise you, you get pulled over and your vehicle's in a trust. And of course, if you're not like drunk driving or something, like, look, man, you're on your own. But, so these minor infractions, this little stuff that they mess with people for, they don't mess with you over that stuff. 9 times out of 10. They don't know who you are. They bosses have trust, man. You understand what I'm saying? Their bosses have trust and have their cars titled like that. The only time they see that is where their bosses and with the police station, because those cars, those cruisers are titled in the name of the department or whatever. They seen it with their jobs and their bosses. They don't know who you are, and 9 times out of 10 they're gonna leave you alone. Like I said, unless you're doing crazy stuff, ain't no help. You a menace to society, you disturbing the peace, you a public detriment. That's on you. Trust is not going to save you if you're on that stuff. But most people, I would say most people checking out the show ain't on that. So hopefully it's falling on deaf ears. But this is the stuff. This is why I share this, because listen, I know it takes repetition for things to stick. And, it takes practice to become, not even an expert. It takes practice just to become well-versed in something or halfway versed in something. And this stuff, I don't know very many people. I don't know personally anybody who's presenting people with this information and just trying to, listen, just reestablish your foundational understanding with regards to doing business. It will change your life. And that's what the foundation is. That's what we aim to do. So, with that being said, if you're interested, trustee training, we got some promotions going on. You can email me, ask about those. Definitely the 55% off for the real money. Those who know. But you got to email me for that. And, I just start. Like, it's the procrastination. It kills me. I'm not like trying to talk down to anyone. I'm talking straight across to equals. We're all in this. We're all the same. We do the same dance, do the same dance. And if we don't, it's going to be similar. But at the end of the day, it's about family and it's about peace, right? Right. So I'm not talking down to anyone. I'm speaking straight across to equals and peers. Stop procrastinating. Just do it. Just start. Just because then once you get into the habit, we develop bad habits, we develop good habits. It's just once we get the habit, I will never title anything and name an individual for the rest of my life. Watch. Never. Why? For what? That habit is gone. It has been destroyed. It's too much liability. I don't like, the implication with taxes and stuff, and there's a state and federal. Look, that's a lot. That's a lot. Now, if you are an employee, and people say, well, can I do no, because it's the individual that's receiving the income, so the individual is responsible for any tax owed on that income. So you can't assign income. I don't know. I'm pretty sure though. What do I know? I'm crazy. But listen, assets. Protect your assets. You work hard for that. I work hard for this stuff, man. Work very, very hard for it. Anything can happen. And, any of this stuff that is sitting around, personal property, real property, it's a preservation tool. And it's honestly a family reunification tool. I feel like, probate, the distribution of assets, and then each heir goes their own way or has the opportunity to do what they want versus, having a family estate and the heirs have to come together and work together as trustees. I would choose the latter. I've chosen the latter. And, I think it's glorious. I think it's more in line. I think it's way more in line with natural law. Because bottom line, the state, the federal government did not give me life, did not give me energy. When I exchange my energy into the public marketplace, why do I owe a tax? Sales tax, use tax, okay, man, we can argue those. But an income tax, that's an energy tax. Nope, no Caesar, no. But that's just me. And, this is, I don't know, I'm not going to call it gospel, but this is the ministry of the foundation. Go private. Stop procrastinating. You got this. We're here to help. And start. Believe, begin, become. Believe. It sounds silly, but it's so real. Believe, begin, become. You have the power, whether you know it or not. And I appreciate y'all for checking out the show. Sorry I was gone for so long. I love y'all. Life happens. Honestly, the foundation is a charity. It's more. This is charitable work. A workman is worthy of their hire. But if that was the case, it would hit so fewer people that I'm not good with that. So this is how we do it. But it also means that this is not a 9 to 5 for us, right? So, but I'm still here. Nothing happened to me. I didn't get kidnapped or whatever, cloned or whatever. Man, listen, y'all, just chill. Just chill. Everything's all good, y'all. I appreciate y'all for checking out the show. Y'all make sure y'all enjoy yourself, take care of yourself. Make sure you say 10 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep tonight and every night. It's very important. And I'll catch y'all on the next episode of The Foundation. Peace.